Hello, beautiful souls. Today's episode is so good. And before we jump in, I have some exciting news to share. If you've ever wondered where you're blocking money, this is for you. I've created a free quiz to diagnose your money wounds so you can heal them and unblock yourself to receive more money. Just go to moneywoundsquiz.com and answer 6 quick questions to get your insanely accurate and potent results. And if you're loving my vibe and want to work one-on-one to call in more feminine energy wealth, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me a DM on social media or go to emilywilcox.com to learn more. All right. Well, I am so excited for the show today. We have an incredible guest, one of my Hypermind Mastermind sisters, Regina Gulbinas. And Regina's an incredible person. She spent 17 years as a corporate turnaround specialist and guided over 100 corporations back to financial profitability. Regina expanded her business into the online space and then now works with online female entrepreneurs, guiding them to unapologetically step into their original blueprint, activate their brilliance, and turn up their income. Her clients don't pay for her time. They are paying for her 19 years of experience helping businesses generate millions. And together they collapse time around possibility. Regina, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm super excited too. Thank you. Very glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, being in an incredible high-level mastermind together, I feel like we already know each other so well just from like an energetic exchange, but this is a super fun opportunity for me to dive into your story. So I'm super curious, how did you go from this obviously like very rich corporate career where I think you were well accomplished, where people really valued what you did? I imagine that you made good money doing that. And then you kind of pivoted into entrepreneurship. So tell me more about that. What led you into entrepreneurship?
To even start into corporate turnaround, you mean?
Well, I'm curious why you made the pivot from corporate into coaching.
Yes. So in the corporate turnaround, I worked with a mentor for 17 years. He took me under his wing, much older. So I worked with him, alongside him, reorganizing over 100 corporations. What a privilege, right? To help people keep their businesses, keep the employees going, keep so many families paid. So honor and a privilege. I think him and I got to a point where we had different understandings, and I felt the need to expand. And the agreement was that if I work with him under the structure, I don't really do my own thing with what I wanted to do online, and I can respect it. I can respect it. So it was time to part ways, which was just another opportunity. The interesting thing is 6 months before we parted ways, I personally walked with God. I'm very transparent about that. I felt in September of 2018, I felt God put on my heart that relationship, that was coming to an end. And I couldn't understand why. I'm making great money. I have a great reputation. I reorganize any company I can walk into. I don't really have formal education or training, just God-given natural abilities. And I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense. But when God has a plan for you, he has a plan for you. And slowly but surely, it started to unravel and I started to understand. And I just felt this burning desire to come online and show women what's possible. Because I know I'm an example of what's possible versus no formal training, education, reorganizing over 100 companies. Who would have thought? And now doing this online and overcoming very challenging divorce and getting to the other side of it. So I knew that I'm an example of endless possibilities for women. And I just felt a push to go into the online space and do this. And I wasn't misguided for sure. Very lucky to be here.
I love that. And, when we feel that call from the divine, I interpret that as like, it's a very feminine energy move, right? It's like trusting and surrendering to a plan that's bigger than our own, and then like taking action from that place. So I'm curious, like, have you always seen the feminine energy in your career, or did you find that when you were in corporate, you tended to be in more masculine energy, and then moving into entrepreneurship required more of the feminine energy trust?
Well, in corporate, if it's a turnaround and a company is 5 million in debt, 2 million in debt, 10 million in debt, you can't really just say, let's lean back, take a few baths. It's going to be okay. Like things are falling apart, like things are crumbling, marriages are falling apart, debtors want their money, liens are being put on on homes. Like this is not, let's lean back, it's going to work out. You have the trust and faith. That's what pushes the customer to move forward. But you got to have a lot of it. So it's a great combination. For me personally, I got to tell you, the divine God, the feminine came in where I've never had an instance in a critical environment and turnaround where I did not know what to do. That is divine.
Yeah.
That is divine. Because you walk into a company, you don't know what the circumstances are. I mean, they're in debt, but there's different types of debt. It's scary to people. Some debt, like they lean their homes, clean out their bank accounts, like under 30 seconds, they just sweep their account. Some debt is different. So, but somehow I always knew what to do, and I knew it wasn't for me. Like I knew it wasn't mine. I was just facilitating the information.
Yeah.
But I think when we get the pull from the divine, like what I did to go online, people have, I think, misconception. I get the divine, then I know exactly what to do. Right. Sometimes you'll get a calling with zero direction of what to do. You just got to follow through and step forward, and then you get the list of what to do, right? That's the blind faith. Yeah.
I would say that's most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why few of us will step out and some will, but I also believe that God and the divine don't necessarily use the qualified, they use the available. So who steps up faster and says, I'm in, regardless of what the checklist is. And that's exactly what I did when I switched. I walked away from all of that, started from zero income and went online with zero guarantee that this thing will work, like none.
Yeah. So you had no experience building an online business?
Not like this, not when I'm when I'm in front of the audience. I was always behind the scenes, navigating these companies, these corporations. Nobody knew I existed most of the time in these businesses. I was behind the scenes. I was helping drive the CEO drive, and being an introvert and being a projector personality and being so comfortable not being seen. And here we are. Welcome to the online space. It's all you. It's your show, girl. And let's just say my system went into shock for a few minutes.
Yeah. So how long ago was it that you made the pivot into online coaching?
February, I think 24th, 2019, and about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
I'm fairly new to here.
Yeah. So let's talk numbers a little bit, because I think this pivot is something that's so scary for so many people, myself included. Like I still think the scariest thing I ever did was leave a salaried job where I made, a very comfortable 6-figure income to go into business for myself. Yeah. So you were, what was your salary when you were doing the corporate turnarounds?
So my monthly could be based on the quantity of clients I had. On very slow months could be 8,000-9,000 a month, which is over 6 figures, and up to 19,500 a month. So I'm a single mom in California with 2 kids. Like I have no additional support and assistance. So when I went all in, I went all in.
Yeah. I'm in Southern California too, getting it cheap. So you were doing anywhere, probably your W-2 at the end of the year or something like, 150,000 or something like that. And then you start online coaching where, I don't know, did you have anything lined up or did you go down to zero?
I woke up one morning with zero income. I had my own corporation set up. I was paid as a 1099 through everybody because I wasn't on anybody's W-2, but I woke up one day with zero income. That was the decision. But my personality has always been sink or swim, right? That's just how I function well, sink or swim. I think also this has made me very effective in turnaround because I know how to swim. Yeah. When perhaps some will sink. So that made me very effective because I'm not afraid. I have this ability to know that I will never sink. I don't know where it comes from. I just have it. And that is really profitable for my clients, actually online or offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I started literally from scratch, no social media presence. There was nothing. I had no idea how to even do a Facebook Live, like nothing, like zero.
And there was no part of you that was afraid, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I've got zero income. I'm a single mother. Like, I have humans that I'm responsible for. What if this doesn't work?
I'm still afraid. I think if anybody tells you that fear is 100% always goes away, they're lying, just my personal perspective. But I was terrified. I had responsibilities. Kids were always in activities, expensive activities, because I made sure that they're not on TV or hanging out with friends. So that was activities. Private school. My kids are now 17 and 24, so the older one is older. Private school, not cheap. I mean, all of it, terrified. And I'm still terrified. You know, it's a process. There's no end to the process. So I'm still terrified. But when I woke up with zero income by myself, my body went into shock. I'm not going to lie. But I have historical evidence to confirm that I always accomplish everything that I really desire.
Yeah.
So I'm 43 now. So I was about to turn 40 then, 41. So at 40, I started from scratch, big move. But because I have enough historical evidence in my life that if I really want something, it will get done, that allowed me some sort of peace and comfort, because the question was, what if it doesn't work? And then the other question on the other side of it was, has it ever not worked when you really wanted something? And the answer was no, it always does. Yeah. So that's kept me going.
Yeah, I love that. And obviously, like, now we're together in a mastermind that's a really significant investment. And my guess, I'm getting the sense that we're similar in the way of, okay, if I'm going to do this, I don't want the 5-year plan. I want the 1-year plan, right? So like, how do I learn from the best? How do I get this business up and running as quickly as possible? So I'm curious, did you find a coach or a mentor like right away, or how long into your journey of entrepreneurship were you when you started seeking out paid mentorship?
So no, I was too smart to hire a coach right away, right? Because I was one of those, and I probably should almost 2 decades in helping people reorganize, because they didn't ask for mentorship fast enough. And here I am, clearly I know better. So I love the experience. So what that did for me, I didn't monetize for about a year. That was an expensive lesson. Because I'm an A-type personality. Like, I got this. And I was like, you don't got anything. You better find somebody fast. But because money was so painfully tight at that point, I took some offline clients still for restructuring. But money was so painfully tight, I had to start with programs. So I found a coach. The first program I took, I think, was in December 2019. So about 9 months into it. And money was so tight. It was an $800 program. So this is for all of you who are wondering, how am I going to pay for this? If there's a will, there's a way. It's an $800 program. I reach out to the mentor and I say, look, I know it's $800. I know it's a stupid question. Please don't laugh at me. I said, look, I'm not making money, but money is coming out. Clearly, I have expenses. I'm a big girl. I have things to pay for. I said, I need a 10-month payment plan, because I was so afraid to add even $1 to the cash out. And she came back with the kindest response. She said, absolutely, don't mind. So I found somebody I connected with. It was an expensive investment for me. It's not a lot if it's just one thing, but it's a lot if you have a life to support and 2 kids to support. And no income coming in, so you kind of budget every cent. And she said, not a problem, I'm happy to do it. And of course, I paid everything. But yeah, I found somebody I connected with, but I found a way, I negotiated a payment plan, because I was like, I've negotiated millions of debt. I can't negotiate $800. Yeah. But if there is a will, there was a way. So I started then, and I never stopped. And I scaled fast in payments, in masterminds, in mentorship.
Yeah. So take me through that journey. Like, what did your revenue growth look like? And at the same time, how did you reinvest some of that into your own learning?
So first of all, I always reinvested more than I had. I always go ahead of the results because I understand the reason most companies fail, like the often that I work with, is because the knowledge and information needed for the business to succeed always exceeded the knowledge base of the CEO.
Yeah.
Always. So I always go ahead of the results and invest more than I can, putting my feet in the fire, making sure I bust my butt every single month to cover my payments. That's really how I always function. I go and then the results follow. I don't wait. So I didn't monetize for over about a year, maybe a few $100 here and there. Like I didn't make, let's call it, I made no money. I love it now because I get to tell women what's possible, that you can live through the gap. You got to survive the learning curve, right? That's the power of the leaders versus the not the leaders. So I think last August, something shifted in me. I woke up to the new version of me. Something changed. Like we all go through these learning curves and then one day we get up and something just lines up. So last August, it was like, it went from 5,000 to 12,000 to 20, 21, 25, 27, something like that. So after not making money for over a year, barely making money, it just started taking off because something in me shifted. And December 2020, I joined a six-figure mastermind. Like no business joining it financially, like zero. And I woke up December, I think 11th, and I felt this divine again, sign on. You got to go. I messaged them right away because when I got the feeling, I intentionally said to myself, like, this is crazy. Like, do you want to wake up first, have a cup of coffee, like talk to yourself? And something in me said, just go. So I sent the message, asked for the contract to commit myself. But what happened was interesting is that the moment I entered the mastermind, I was at that point, like mid-20s, 25, 27, something like that in cash. My body went into shock. My whole system went into shock and my income dropped severely because I entered a place where women literally seem to have, celebrating $50,000 days. They're still in their bed in their pajamas. They haven't had their car. I'm like, oh my God, it's 50. And I'm like, everything in you goes off, says, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do it? All the hamster gets on a crazy wheel and just goes round and round. And my system went into shock and my income went to crap, if I can say so.
Yeah.
And what happened next was, this is where you make a decision. You made a commitment to the investment. I was raised that if you shake hands or if you gave somebody your word of honor, like that is the first thing you take care of. Nothing else matters. So there was the commitment, financial commitment. I promised somebody something. I think it's a big misfortune in a coaching industry. People walk away from their commitments. I think it's important to follow through. So there was that. And this is where it came at a crossroads, right? Who am I? What it feels this way. Who am I? What do I want for myself? What do I want my daughters to see? What is my personal power when everything feels like it's collapsing? And then as I started moving forward, I realized I'm expanding so much within the mastermind. I always say I went there to blow up my business, but I actually found myself. I started expanding so fast and I realized things are not falling apart. They're falling into place because the way I was doing them would not have served me long term. And if I continue to do them that way, I would assume, based on historical evidence, that's how I made money, that this is the way I should do it. But the truth is that's not how God is. That's not why I'm here. Not to make it was very masculine. And I realized, okay, I got this. This is and the moment I said I got this, I went back to it hit like into over 10. And last month was almost 25,000 back in cash. Like it went fast the moment I said I got this.
Yeah. And it's been so fun. I've just been on the tail end of this journey, but just to celebrate you. And one thing I love about you, and I'll make sure that you share your social media before we finish, is that you're really transparent in your celebrations. And so I love how much you celebrate like the number of women that are in your free masterclass and the signups that you're getting into your mastermind and just all of it. Like it feels like we really get to be along on the journey. And yeah, I'm just like so thrilled for you. And I love what you brought up about joining a six-figure mastermind and then feeling really wobbly, right? Because those are like our money wounds coming right up to the surface. So talk to me about that. If you had to kind of label like what those money wounds were that needed a little bit more healing, some more TLC, what was happening, do you think?
So everything about worthiness came up. I'm not good enough. Why are they how come they're able to hit those numbers? So the misconception is, I think we look at somebody who's doing something and we say, why can't they do that? But we never ask what it took to get there.
Yeah.
Right? We never say, well, but some of the women that are celebrating these insane, magnificent numbers, and I love them. Like I've built some incredible like bonds, like outside of the mastermind container. Like we talk like sincere bonds with these women. They've been here for 5, 7, 8 years. They're investing hundreds of thousands a year, paid in full in their personal development. So I think we'll look at the end result, but we don't necessarily pay attention to the journey. So the worthiness came up. And also for me, because I went through a very traumatic divorce and my husband punished me for leaving by leaving our daughters and I over $2 million in debt. My system was refusing money because I felt that it's not safe to have it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was a big one for me. And the interesting thing, it just recently started to surface the last few months that I had to work on, that it's safe for me to, because I see it doesn't matter how much I make, it goes out. But the truth is, I didn't feel safe to have it. And the moment I fixed it, it started to shift. Not only is it coming in, but it's actually staying.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a really common one, right? I call it like the money trust wound, where it's like, you don't trust yourself with money. You see the lack of money in your life as being evidence that you are untrustworthy.
Yes. Yes.
You feel like other people can manage their money, but not you.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And think about this. We're measured generally in society by our credit score. Right? Yeah. That's the measuring stick. And you're either worthy of something or not based on, I've worked with so many people in corporate turnaround, magnificent people. Their credit score is shot because they put everything on the line to build the business, to create jobs, to do something good, and people will deny them because they've put everything on the line. But that's the measuring stick, unfortunately, right? The credit score. You either get what you want or not based on your credit score. So we have these measuring sticks in society when it comes to money. And I think part of it, why people, and thank you for commenting that I celebrate so transparently, part of it, we're afraid to celebrate because we think if I've made 20,000, it's not a good number because she's made 50 or he's made, 200,000. We diminish it and we feel we need to hit these numbers in order to celebrate ourselves. But I got to tell you, when I hit 25,000 this past in July in cash, these are not sales, cash.
Yeah.
I celebrated myself because the last 6 months of self-discovery, where I know a lot of people would have thrown in the towel, they were hard. Like my feet were in the fire every single day. And there were days where I cried so hard, my face was swollen. I couldn't show up on social media. So I've learned to navigate around in stories and social media with pictures and slides and things like that. Like my face was swollen for 2-3 days. I couldn't show up because I was afraid. I was crying. All this stuff comes up. So I think it's important for people to understand it's a journey for everybody. And if anybody says it was easy, they're full of it. It's not easy.
Yeah.
If it was easy, everybody would do it.
That's right. And that's the value of joining a mastermind. So I feel like any entrepreneur is listening to this, like you got to get yourself into a mastermind because once you're in those spaces, what you see is everybody's fears, everybody's issues. If we just want to see people's celebrations and what's going well, perfect. All we need is Facebook and Instagram, right? But when you see the same person who you saw on Facebook or Instagram posting something that seems like they just have it 100% together, like life is just groovy, and then you get to hear them inside the mastermind and, oh my gosh, they just hit this milestone and now they've felt depressed for the last week. They've had a hard time showing up in their business. All these old fears are resurfacing. In my opinion, what it does for you is it shows you that like, we're all going to have that at every level. And so it kind of takes away this game we play with ourselves where it's like, oh, once I get to 50,000 a month, then I'm going to feel safe. Then I'm going to feel worthy. Then I'm going to feel like I've got it all together. No, you won't. Not if you haven't healed that. But what about when I get to 100K? Nope. Not if you haven't healed that. So it's like, it's this beautiful invitation, right? For us to just do the work now, not wait for money to save the day. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was for me. And I think the beauty of the mastermind, I think it's more powerful than anything in a sense that when you go into the mastermind, everything that's unhealed in you comes at you screaming in your face, like in 30 seconds. You're like, oh my God, give me a minute to process. But it's a great thing because I prefer, again, sink or swim, deal with everything and be done with it, right? With the things I had to. But also the misconception is once I deal with these things, there is nothing else. And if I've learned anything in life, in my 43 years of being here, is that every level of expansion has its own set of demons. And they're like, well, why didn't it come out before? Well, there was no need for it before. You weren't there before. The opposition didn't need to be this way before, because I believe there is an equal offset. There's the blessed, there is God, and then there's the opposition, at least the way I live my life.
Right.
So every level, there's a welcoming committee that screams in your face, welcome to here, but let me show you what you can do. So the mastermind really shines the light on where you're at and where you need to work on. And I wouldn't change it for the world, because the amount of healing, the amount of self-discovery, the amount of personal evolution I've done in the last 7 months of being there, if I was by myself, or even just group programs that are delivered through a Facebook Live or whatever, it would take me a lifetime. And very likely I would never even achieve that, because not everything is in your face at once. But it's true, money doesn't change it. So I think that the problem is people chase money versus chasing their original blueprint. And I'm saying you chase your blueprint, and then money is a byproduct. That's it. It really, really, but it doesn't, I'm glad you said it, because it doesn't change it. It doesn't fix it. It doesn't solve anything. It just becomes more of a pain and more of a fear factor. So if I never grew my fear of losing money and having money at the lower level, I would lose my sanity making $300,000 a month, being constantly afraid that it's going out.
Yes.
I couldn't hold the emotion. I couldn't hold the fear.
Yes. Yes. I love that you bring that up, because it truly is energetic protection, right? Like, God isn't going to give you a $300,000 per month business when the truth of the truth was that having money in your bank account produced anxiety.
Yes. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
So it's like we get to heal that, and then more money gets to come because we're a match for more of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But people don't want to do the work. I think it's scary work. I think looking at ourselves, really looking at ourselves, is the hardest thing we have to do, because it's painful. And I think as we get older, it becomes, we may be able to do it quicker, but it's more painful because we realize that the years gone by, the mistakes made, all that stuff, and we push it off for later and later. So for me to say I wanted to look at all that stuff and accept it and take responsibility and acknowledge of where my leaks are, that was not an easy ride, nor was it very pleasant. But I knew that if I'm here to execute on my original blueprint and lead women to their power, all that, I don't get to walk women through their stuff before I walk through mine. Like, I'm just not going to get to walk through that door. It's just not happening.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Talk to me more about this concept of an original blueprint.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to talk about. I genuinely believe that we all have an original blueprint. We all have a purpose. We all have a mission. Whether you choose to step into it, accept it, it's entirely up to the person, because it comes with massive levels of responsibility. That's why people are so afraid of success. Success equals responsibility. Money is responsibility. People are giving you money to walk them through something, to lead them through something. It's not just money. It's an exchange. It's a trade. Money is a responsibility, especially in mentorship. So blueprint, I believe we all have a divine purpose. Mine is to lead, teach, and inspire other people. My life on paper makes zero sense. That's how I know I'm within my original blueprint. I'm telling you, I barely graduated high school. I hated school. I failed more classes than I probably took. I hated school. Like, I wasn't for school. School was not for me. I did not understand how logically I can apply it to life, and there was no rhyme or reason. I made my first money since I was 11. Did not like school. Went to a 2-year college. It took me like 3 years, only because I wanted to get everybody off my back. School was not for me, period. And yet I've managed to successfully help reorganize over 100 companies. It makes zero logical sense, like none. People go to school for 10 years to know what to do. It's not just looking at a balance sheet, cutting a few expenses, like you're dealing with people in their lives. So my original blueprint is I can bring chaos to order fast. And I understand at the core level, I understand people and money. So my original blueprint is walking people actually to their truth, empowering them, showing them what's possible for them, and leading them to the life that they desire, because I always have a vision of what's available for somebody before they ever see it themselves. So our original blueprint is your design. You will know when you're in it, because it's scary, it's uncomfortable, but somehow God always provides with the next step and the next step and the next step, but it comes with responsibility. Yeah.
Ooh, I love this so much. I'm glad that I felt led to take the conversation in this direction, because it really is true. And I feel like I spent so many years kind of grappling with like why I couldn't just let things be good enough. And it was because I really didn't want to step into my purpose.
Yes.
And I almost tried to like manipulate myself, like, well, who are you to think that you're going to get big wealth and that you're going to have this kind of impact? And it was like, I really wanted my dreams to be smaller. And so I think your point is spot on, because it's like, if we actually had control over it in this one finite human lifetime, it wouldn't be that way. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I would have honestly just stayed at the $150,000 a year job with the retirement fund growing and the corporate car and everything. Like, that was actually so much easier mm-hmm. than what I've done for the last 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. Like, no sane person would really choose it.
I agree, 100%. Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I just know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I feel. So when I got the green light, so to speak, to shift to online, terrified out of my mind. But I knew if I got the divine guidance to move forward, I knew that God wouldn't leave me hanging.
Yeah.
This was a partnership. And I knew that this was a partnership. I've seen God's hands. I got chills right now. I've seen God's fingerprints all over my life.
Yeah.
And I believe, because I've always been brave to say yes to the unknown when it felt good, God never failed to come through with his part. Ever, 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 ever.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I love that. And when we talk about like masculine and feminine energetics, and it is a dance, right? Like we're all both. But in those moments, it's like God's the masculine.
Yes.
God is holding us. God has the plan. God has the strategy. Mm-hmm. And in our feminine, all we simply need to do is allow.
Yes. And that's the hardest part for us, because allowing means trusting and surrendering. And we are being asked to trust and surrender into the unseen. Yes. That's why people have such a hard time to surrender to the chaos, because it's familiar. They know what to expect. They keep reliving the same outcome over and over and over again. It's now tangible. They know what to expect. But trust and surrender means this is blind faith at its finest. Yes. This is it.
Yes.
Can you walk in blind faith or can you not? Or do you hold on to the tangible, to the evidence? So when people show up online to start building a business, it's not the way it looks. And I think the misconception is because people celebrate their wins, but nobody celebrates the failures. And if there's one win, I guarantee there's probably 20, 30, 40, 50 failures prior to the win. But nobody says, oh my God, celebrating dropping the ball today, celebrating not making any money today. So everybody has this idea that you just show up online and people throw money at you.
Yeah.
So there's this illusion going on.
Yes. And even the way that we talk about money, and I do think it's getting better in certain circles, but it's part of the reason that I started this podcast is because, you know, when we don't have transparency around money and when we're not talking about it, we still feel emotion around it. In fact, we just make up all kinds of crazy stories inside of our head. And then because we don't say them out loud, nobody gets to correct us or fact check us or help us move into a more empowered story, right? And so one of the things I see online is there's a lot of talk about sales and versus cash. And so if you're not familiar with that, you might be looking at sales and thinking it's cash and going, geez, how is that person doing so great? And why can't I do it, right? So more evidence of my unworthiness.
Mm-hmm.
We also very rarely see people talk about profit online. And so it's like, having a $20,000 month is cash month, right, is wonderful. And it is to be celebrated. And there are expenses associated with that. How much are you paying your coach? How much are you paying to be in a mastermind? How much are you paying your assistant? What does your team look like? And so again, it's not to take away from the number, but I think when we're sort of looking at it from just this very broad strokes view, we think that somebody else is rich and we're poor. We think somebody else is doing it right and we're doing it wrong. Instead of, as you so, astutely brought up, seeing somebody's 100K month and then recognizing, oh, they've been in the game 6 years. Oh, they've invested $300,000 in their personal growth. Okay, they did $100,000 in top line revenue. They have 4 people on their team. They pay their coach $10,000 a month. They have to pay taxes. Okay, it's still an accomplishment. It's still incredible, but also right sizing it so that we're not weaponizing it against ourselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, but I really do. Yes, 100% to everything you said. But I also really believe that people who understand that this is a business, who are not here just to make a few sales and pay a few bills. Like, we understand it. Like, you're a businesswoman, I'm a businesswoman. Like, so when I see I've made $1 bazillion before I had a cup of coffee, I understand what it took, what it takes, and what's going to come against it as far as cash out, because we understand actual business. We're not, the number is not the shiny object for us.
Yeah.
Although to even generate consistent 10,000 online takes a lot.
Yes.
I certainly, if that's where if that's somebody's making who's watching, even if you're making 5 consistently, there are people who will never make that much money in their life per month.
Yeah.
I think it's a great accomplishment because it takes consistency, it takes accountability, it takes investing in yourself, it takes being able to manage, the hamster on your wheel inside your head. Like, it takes a village to make any amount consistently, or to even show up consistently. But you're right, people look at the top line number and say, I could live for the rest of my life on this. And the truth is, well, in my very low months, I still have to be a 6-figure mastermind. You guys can do you guys can math. You guys can do the math. That's just one investment. I have another coach that I work with one-on-one. I have programs that I'm a part of. We're in. We're in.
Yeah, totally. It's like people see your best month and they're like, you're rich. You're like, well,
yeah,
I am celebrating it. And as you say, this is a business. There are expenses.
But if I can add just really quickly, so I think the perspective also has to be when we see people celebrating. Like, for me, when I celebrate in July, the highest cash month this year, it's because I'm more celebrating myself than the number of what it took.
Yes.
The
Yes.
women that you see, they're celebrating the number because it did not just fall in our head. It did not fall in our lap. So when I watch women celebrate these numbers, I don't even celebrate the number. I celebrate the woman because I know what it took. The consistency alone can just screw you up on a daily basis when you don't feel like showing up. So I really celebrate the woman behind the number because I know what it takes. And that to me is personal power. It's not the number.
Yeah. What a beautiful perspective. And you're spot on. Like I so often feel like, you know, thank you, money. Like, thank you for being such an enticing carrot, because that's actually the reason that we transform. It's the reason we do the inner work. It's the motivation that we needed to really turn inward and say, what do I need to clean up here? What beliefs do I have that's not serving me? And, you know, at my recent retreat, there was like, you know, we were coming out of a heavy moment where there were a couple women who, you know, really cried and really released like some deep, heavy stuff that they had been holding on to for decades and had never talked to anyone about, maybe outside of a spouse or a therapist. And when we kind of got to the other side of it, you know, we just had this lighthearted moment where it was like, thank you, money. Thank you. Because otherwise we wouldn't touch this stuff with a 10-foot pole. If you just said, hey, you can have a little more joy, you can have a little more peace. But in order to do that, you've got to unearth all the deepest, darkest, most gut-wrenching stuff. You'd be like, no, I'm good.
And do the process in the online space, in the open, in front of the world, right? You're not just doing it in the shadows. Come online, all your baggage, all your demons, all your stuff, all your failures, and the world will help you move through it. I mean, safe does that sound, right, to anybody? Not me. I'm an introvert. Like, don't touch my stuff. Like, I'm so comfortable offline. But that's part of it. That's the journey. So for me, like I said, when I celebrated the number, it was so not the number. It was everything I had to become for people to pay me that money.
Yes. Yes. And I love that reframe. And I feel like I'm going to use that when I see people celebrating, because I do tend to look at the number, and I like the numbers too. Like, they can be very expansive for me. And also, right, there's like the shadow side where my mind will try to do the comparison game and all of that, or jump into the how. Yes. Yep. And it's like, well, the how that we want is like step A, B, C, D. And the real how is what you and I were just talking about, which is they frickin' showed up and did the work. They looked at themselves in the mirror and they cleaned up all of the limiting beliefs that did not work for them. Right? They had consistency. They sold. They showed up for the people who were paying them. They got the energetic exchange. Like, yeah.
And we get to experience this, right, by watching ladies in the mastermind, because when we see the ladies that are expanding just at a crazy rate, the answer is always the same. The how, I showed up for myself. I became more of myself. I stepped into my original blueprint. Like, the answer doesn't change. It doesn't matter what they sell or how they sell it. The answer doesn't change. I became more. I gave myself permission to be more of myself, period.
Yeah. And look, if you're listening to this, I will say that answer is always a little slightly maddening to me. It's like, I've heard it a million times. I've heard it from so many different women. I know it's true. And there's still a little part of me that's like, but there had to be more to it. Tell me the strategy. Tell me the secret sauce.
Yes. You know, I'm very much like you. I think that's part of the connection, more of the masculine energy, more of the structure, more of that stuff, because I come from that and I like that. So I was the same way when we talked about, when I just got into the mastermind, the feminine energy. I was like, but how? Like, but how do I lean back? And she'd be like, well, you just lean back and but how? But like, I wanted the how. I wanted the tangible for the intangible.
Right.
And then when I made the money last month, I'm like, oh, that's the how. Okay. But that answer was also maddening. I'm like, okay, I understand, but give me something tangible that I can sink my teeth in to connect the dots. But she was like, there's nothing. Like, this is the how. This is it. And I was like, but I can't add. This doesn't add up.
Right.
Same. I get it.
Yeah. So I just love bringing that up, because it's like, there will be that part of our brain, and that's fine, right? But it's like continuing to put ourselves in spaces where we see more evidence of the actual truth, because there are so many people selling the paint by numbers for business. There are so many people selling, just follow my framework and you're going to get the same success that I get. And you know, I've been down those paths, so I can tell you firsthand the limitations, but also I really understand the attractiveness. So it's like part of it for me is intentionally putting myself in spaces like the one that we're in, where women are being honest, because it's actually harder to say the truth of the truth as I became more of myself.
Yes, because it's harder to say because first of all, you got to acknowledge that you had things to work on yourself. Nobody wants to feel like they're broken. I don't think it's brokenness. I think over the years, we're so conditioned from the beginning, and we're such a reflection of the fears of other people. We're such a reflection of the past wounds of other people. We're such a reflection. To get to the root of who we are, we got to unravel the pain and the scars and the damages of the people who had to handle us before we got to be an adult, right? Because we're just a reflection of their past.
Yeah.
So once we get to the root of it, you don't want to feel like you were broken. So I don't think you was broken. I think it's our responsibility to become who we are. But it's also hard because it sells, but not very well, because people want to know the money. Show me the money. That's why the money program sells so much better than the become yourself, program, because people want the money. But well, you don't get to have it if you don't become yourself. But being yourself is not really what doesn't really sell. It does. We know, you and I know that it does, but still not as much, because people want the money.
Yeah.
But one without the other, you're just a hamster on the wheel.
That's right. You won't get the money, or if you get it, you can't hold on to it. So before we wrap, I'd love to hear, do you have like a fun money goal that you're playing with, or that you're trying to collapse time around? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I would love to. So I took a different approach this month. So I would like to collapse down and get to 50,000 faster within a 30-day period, even if it's not a calendar month. But I did something else this month, because these goals, I think for me at least, put so much pressure, because each day you get closer to the month, or each day you get closer to the 30 days and you don't hit it. It's like, oh my God, it's less time, it's less time, it's less time. Yeah. Well, first of all, let's be clear. Like, we're talking about stupid amounts of money, like 50,000 a month. Most people don't make it in a year, right? Like, well, this is magic money. Like, it makes zero sense. The numbers we actually discuss, especially in the mastermind. So 50,000 to collapse time. But what I did this month is I took full attachment away from any number I want to hit. My only attachment is to, I wrote it down. Nope, not on this post-it. Grace, surrender, ease, and flow. That is my motto for this year. Great for this month. Grace, surrender, ease, and flow. The first time I'm doing it, and I sold like 3 spots into the mastermind in 72 hours because I had zero pressure on myself. None. I show up, I be me, more in the feminine, and I just make the offer, and in exchange for the people pay me, they get into the offer. And it has been an experience. I think that's what's going to collapse time for me. I really think that's it, and really surpass what I want to do.
I love it. Awesome. And for anyone who wants to follow along with you and with this journey, what's the best way for them to follow you?
Facebook, Instagram. I'm primarily on Facebook. So just my name, Regina Gulbinas, on both. That's
perfect. And we'll drop the links in the show notes as well. So Regina, I just love your energy. I know that my audience is going to love it too and want to follow along with you, but you are direct, you're to the point, you say it like it is, you offer such authenticity and transparency. I just want to say, like, what a joy it is to be in sisterhood with you and to be growing our businesses together.
Thank you. I feel the same way. I think it's an honor. I think we get to, it's a privilege to watch all of us uncover their stuff. It's a privilege to walk with other women who, like, we're inspired by each other. Yeah. We show each other what's possible. And I think the greatest thing about being in a mastermind is, regardless of where somebody's in their journey, we still get to move along the journey together.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I'll see you inside the mastermind. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Changing the way we think, feel, and talk about money will change the world. I truly believe that. It starts with you tuning in, and it spreads when you share this show on Instagram and Facebook and tag me at mmakesmoney. And you know what moves the needle the most? Taking just a minute to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This show isn't free to produce, so let's multiply those dollars invested to help this show reach a bigger audience each week. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. And lastly, if you want more connection, more M Makes Money style riffs, and a safe place on the internet to talk about money, jump into my free Facebook group, The Money Club. It's linked in the show notes. Until next time, I'm wishing you health, happiness, and boatloads of money.